Myanmar, the Golden Land, now transitioning for the first time in more than 50 years from a military dictatorship to a civilian government under de facto leader Aung San Suu Kyi. Starting initially over the control of northeast India, the Anglo-Burmese wars of the 1800s resulted in the loss of Burma's independence, leaving Britain in control of the country and its rich resources of teak, rubies and oil. Karawik Hall on Kandorji Lake was built to resemble the royal barge used by Burmese kings to travel round the kingdom. Yangon, formerly Rangoon, still retains many of the faded buildings from colonial times. At 44 metres high, the Sula Pagoda is a Burmese stupa in the centre of Yangon, said to be more than 2,600 years old. It was a rallying point in both the 1988 uprisings and the 2007 Saffron Revolution. Known for its colonial architecture and inner cobbled streets, Bogyoka Ong Song Market was built in 1926 during British rule and initially named after Gavin Scott, the municipal commissioner of the time. After independence in 1948, it was renamed after General Ong Song, father of Aung San Suu Kyi. Yangon's circular railway is a 46-kilometre, 39-station loop system connecting satellite towns and suburbs within the metropolitan area. This enormous reclining Buddha is 65 metres long and 16 metres high. Originally completed in 1907, it was neglected for decades, but during renovation in 1966, paid for by Buddhists and foreign tourists, an extra 5 metres were added. The soles of the feet contain 108 segments, representing the 108 lakshanas or auspicious characteristics of the Buddha. Leogryphs or chinthis guard each of the 4 entrances to the Shwedagon Pagoda. This sacred Bodhi tree or tree of wisdom is one of 5 on the pagoda's platform.
Umbrella. This is the new one. We put it up in 1999 on the full moon day of April.
The Shwedagon Pagoda is the most sacred Buddhist pagoda in Myanmar and is believed to contain relics of the 4 previous Buddhas of the present Kalpa, the period of time between the creation or recreation of the world. Situated on 46 hectares on Singatara Hill, it's 99 metres high, is surrounded by 6 hectares of terrace and 64 small stupas. It dominates the Yangon skyline. According to legend, it was constructed more than 2,600 years ago, making it the oldest Buddhist stupa in the world. The pagoda has been damaged over the centuries by a series of earthquakes, plundered by the Portuguese in 1608 and used as a fortress by the British during the Anglo-Burmese Wars. An alloy of gold, silver, copper, iron and lead was used in 1778 to cast this 24-ton bell. The stupa has a brick base covered with gold plates, followed by a symbolic bell shape, a turban, an inverted arms bowl, lotus petals, banana bud and umbrella crown. The crown is tipped with 5,448 diamonds, 2,317 rubies, and at the very tip is a 76-carat diamond. Hee Ho is the nearest airport to Inle Lake, Myanmar's second largest. It's about 600 kilometres north of Yangon at an elevation of 880 metres in the Shan Hills.
And then sometimes biking.
The entrance to the Pindaya caves through the Shui U Min Pagoda is guarded by this giant spider. A local legend tells of 7 princesses forced to take refuge in the cave who were sealed in by the spider's web until they were set free by a prince who killed the spider with his bow and arrow. A series of covered stairways climbs the ridge from Pindaya town to the cave's entrance. The 3 Pindaya limestone caves are north of Hee Ho. Only one is open to the public. It extends about 150 metres and contains over 8,000 images of Buddha dating back to 1773, placed by different donors throughout the cave's history up to the present day. The caves are a Buddhist pilgrimage site and tourist attraction. Sundial's green tea restaurant sits beside Lake Pona Toloka.
Cars.
Bark from the paper mulberry tree is used for the pulp to make high-quality paper for umbrellas, fans and lampshades. It's boiled, pounded by mallets, then placed on a frame with a stretched cotton base and submerged in water. When the pulp has settled, flowers and leaves are added for decoration. Shui Yan Pa Monastery of Nyong Shui near Inle Lake is over 150 years old. Its focus is on providing a home with religious and secular education for local boys from poor families. Built of red painted teak, it stands on teak pillars and features large oval windows and intricate carvings. Nyong Shui serves as a marina for our longboat travel down a river channel to our hotel on the eastern shore of Inle Lake. The Inca people of Inle Lake, numbering about 70,000, are a mix of ethnicities. Most are devout Buddhists living in simple houses of wood and bamboo built on stilts in villages along the lake shores. They are largely self-sufficient farmers.
Oh, look.
Fish.
A couple of fish.
Due to the large patches of reeds and floating plants, the local fishermen have developed a unique rowing style for better visibility, standing on one leg at the stern of their boats and wrapping their other leg around the oar. Farmers gather reeds from the bottom of deeper parts of the lake to make into the garden's floating beds. These are anchored by bamboo poles, rising and falling with water level changes, making them flood resistant. The gardens are incredibly fertile. water hyacinth, not a native plant, poses a major problem, and the runoff of silt and nutrients from the surrounding hills encourages the growth of weeds and algae. The lake water is not safe for consumption due to untreated sewage and wastewater disposal, and some villages now have enclosed wells. The 16th century Na Pei Kyong monastery is built on stilts in traditional style. It became known as the Jumping Cat Monastery, as in the past monks taught the resident cats to jump through hoops. The practice ended a couple of years ago following negative foreign press coverage. Pong Do U is the most highly revered monastery in the Inle Lake area. It houses 5 ancient Buddha images completely covered in gold leaf. The Karawik boat carries Buddha images during the Pong Do U Pagoda Festival. These 800-year-old images have so much gold applied, they're unrecognisable as Buddhas. Canoe-style boats are the traditional form of transport, with many now fitted with single-cylinder diesels, with the resultant noise pollution. Indene village is an 8-kilometre boat ride from Inlay Lake. This group of pagodas, named Shui Indane on a hilltop near Indane village, is reached through a 700-metre walkway lined with stalls selling all kinds of souvenirs. The site is believed to date back to the 3rd century BC, when Indian Emperor Ashoka sent monks across Asia to spread Buddhism. There are hundreds of pagodas here, mostly from the 17th and 18th century, but the earliest has an inscription dating to the 14th century. This shrine with the golden Buddha is believed to have been built by King Ashoka. Silver is mined in Myanmar, and silversmithing is a traditional art. Everything is handmade, and the value depends on weight and the quality of workmanship.
Okay, the main dressing in Shan and Pao style. Then music.
Myanmar gold leaf is handmade from 24-carat gold, with each worker daily pounding 32 grams of gold into about 750 layers of finished sheets of gold leaf. A speck of gold is layered between sheets of handmade bamboo paper, stacked along with many others, then wrapped in deer hide and pounded for 6 hours. The 1.2-kilometre curved U-beam bridge was built around 1850 from teak pillars salvaged from a dismantled palace when Myanmar's capital moved from nearby Amarapura to Mandalay. Supported on 1,089 pillars, the bridge spans the Tongthaman Lake. 9 passageways in the bridge allow the floor to be lifted to let boats and barges pass when water levels rise during the wet season. When the lake floor is dry, its rich soil is used for agriculture. The white Maya Theandan pagoda on the banks of the Irrawaddy is modelled on the physical description of the Buddhist mythological mountain Mount Meru. Nearby is the incomplete monument stupa Patul Doji. The ruins are the remains of a massive construction project begun by King Bodul Paya in 1739 and intentionally left unfinished, as a prophecy stated the country would be gone when the building was done. Bodil Paya also had this gigantic bell cast to go with his stupa. It weighs 90 tonnes and is the world's second largest ringing bell. This is the last palace of the last Burmese monarchy, built between 1857 and 1859 by King Mindon, following traditional Burmese design inside a walled fort surrounded by a moat. In 1885, during the Third Anglo-Burmese War, troops entered the palace and captured the royal family, turning the palace into a fort. Much of the compound was destroyed by Allied bombing during World War II. This replica of the palace was rebuilt in the 1990s using some modern materials. The Schwenendor Monastery, once part of the Amarapura Royal Palace, originally was completely gilded and decorated with glass mosaics. The building is made up of intricately carved teak wooden panels. It was dismantled and rebuilt in Mandalay when the capital moved here in 1857. King Mindon used the building as his personal residence in the palace, but after his death his son moved it to its present site near Mandalay Hill and turned it into a monastery. The Kuthador Pagoda, built during King Mindon's reign, was modelled after Bagan Shwesagon Pagoda. A Buddhist stupa, it contains the world's largest book. There are 729 of these stone inscription caves, each containing a marble slab inscribed on both sides with a page of text of the Tripitaka, the canon of Theravada Buddhism. This massive old starflower tree is believed to be 250 years old. At 240 metres high, Mandalay Hill has a number of pagodas and monasteries and has been a major Buddhist pilgrimage site for nearly 200 years. At the top of the hill is the Sutong Pa, or wish-fulfilling pagoda, whose terrace offers a panoramic view across the Mandalay Plain to the Irrawaddy. Sagaing, capital of the Sagaing Kingdom in the 1300s, is an important religious centre with numerous Buddhist monasteries. The British built the original of this 16-span cantilever bridge between Ava and Sagaing in 1934. It was destroyed by the retreating British Army during World War II and rebuilt in 1954 after Burmese independence. Until recently it was the only bridge over the Irrawaddy. This is the Yadanabon or New Ava Bridge, completed in 2008.
Those beautiful mask trees.
I want your picture very, very cheap.
He remember you.
I remember you. Oh, you're very, very cheap. Very, very nice.
Thank you. You too.
Located amid paddy fields, the Bagaya Monastery was first built in teak in 1593, but following its destruction by fire in 1821, it was finally reconstructed in the 1990s by the government. Built on 267 teak posts, the largest is 9 feet in circumference and 60 feet high. This 27-metre watchtower dating from 1821 is the Nan Myint Tower, all that remains of the Ava Royal Palace. The area was devastated by a series of earthquakes in 1838 and the city was not rebuilt. The Maha Aung Mie Bonzan Monastery was built by Queen Mi Nu in 1818 as the residence of the royal abbot. It was built in brick in the same style as the wooden monasteries of the time. Damaged in the 1838 earthquake, it was renovated 40 years later. The Festival of Lights at the October full moon marks the end of the rainy season and the Buddhist version of Lent, when monks remain in monasteries at their devotions following July's full moon. A bamboo candle raft the following morning. Yandabo village is famous for its potteries, the pots being used for water and food storage. They are transported by boat all over the country. The women make the pots, with one potting while the other operates the treadle.
They have to change all the names. Otherwise her leg will be water paint. Water paint.
The pots are decorated and left to dry. Up to 3,000 pots in a single layer are covered with a pile of ash, straw and wood and set on fire. The temperature in this kiln reaches 1200 degrees Celsius and the process takes 3 or 4 days, including cooling. The treaty ending the First Anglo-Burmese War was signed here in 1826.
Go.
Koku is a prosperous trading town on the Irrawaddy, best known for tobacco trading but also producing palm sugar, Tharnica logs, the sarong-like longees and blankets. Rare Yamane wood has been used to create this intricate multi-dimensional carving in the Shwegu temple. 12 feet 10 high, 5 feet 10 wide and 6 inches thick, it took the father and son sculptors 4 years to complete. 8 layers of vines and leaves entwined to resemble layers of lace contained figures of humans, gods, birds and animals. This workshop produces leather slippers for monks, as well as flip-flops for the secular trade, and both are distributed throughout the country.
This is the most important because it will
Koku's churut factories are largely staffed by women. Tobacco is the town's top trade item, with the locally harvested tobacco most often used to create traditional cigars. With nearly 1,000 years of history, Bagan is the richest centre for Buddhism and culture in Myanmar. There are over 2,000 temples, stupas and pagodas in an area of just 30 square kilometres. Bagan's Anandapaya temple was built in 1105 by King Kyanzetta. It houses 4 standing Buddhas, each facing north, south, east or west. Legend has it that the king ordered that the monks responsible for the design and construction be killed so that they could not build something similar elsewhere. The temple spires were gilded in 1990 on its 900th anniversary. Gubyorkji is an Indian-style cave temple built by King Kyanzitta. Like the Shwesagon Pagoda, it's based on the temple in Bodh Gaya in India, where the Buddha reached enlightenment 2500 years ago. The murals depict the 28 Buddhas mentioned in the Tripitaka, the ancient manuscripts of Buddha's teachings. Tharnika is a cosmetic paste made by grinding the wood of the Tharnika tree with a small amount of water on a circular slate slab. It's been used by Burmese women for over 2,000 years, and apart from cosmetic use, gives a cooling sensation and provides sunburn protection. King Narapata Zitu built the Sulumani temple in 1183. Ancient frescoes are found in the passage around the temple's base, with Buddha statues again facing north, south, east and west. The Gubyorkji Pagoda's frescoes, depicting scenes from the previous lives of Buddha, are thought to date from the temple's original construction in 1113. Built in Indian style, the pagoda was damaged in the 2016 earthquake. This is Myanmar's equivalent of the Rosetta Stone, with inscriptions in 4 languages, Burmese, Piu, Mon and Pali, which allowed for the deciphering of the written Piu language. The Shwesagon Pagoda is a prototype of Burmese stupas, consisting of a circular gold leaf gilded stupa surrounded by smaller temples and shrines. King Anorata, founder of the Pagan dynasty, began its construction around 1059. It was completed by his son in 1086. The pagoda is a replica of the temple at Bodh Gaya in India, where Buddha's enlightenment is said to have occurred. It was built to contain several Buddha relics, including a copy of the sacred tooth relic of Kandy in Sri Lanka. Myanmar village is famous for its traditional Mon-style lacquerware, one of Bagan's most common cottage industries.
Use your fingers. Oh. You want to chop your finger off?
You've only got 3 fingers.
Yeah.
Creating this lacquerware is a long process, taking from 3 to 6 months to produce a good quality piece, requiring considerable skill and detailing. During the process, each bamboo frame is coated with up to 16 layers of tree resin lacquer, air dried between coats, then washed, scrubbed, etched with designs and finally coloured and polished. The base lacquer layer is black, with the etched designs being coloured layer by layer with red, yellow and green.
Eggshell. Eggshell.
Kilo Alpha. Good morning. lines in front. Yeah. And in the hat. Bing the bar. Looking for the runway.
Oh no, there's some nice ones.
Really shouldn't enjoy this. Card, okay. It's down here, www.photos.balloons.